And so it is, beloved masters, joyous greetings on this day in your time. You are moving to the end of the year of perspective, and you have experienced both physically, mentally, and emotionally many changes of perspective. It is that you're moving into the holiday season, which is a time, dearly beloved masters, that can put more pressure on relationships than people would ever think, because the illusion has been this is the holiday season. It's a time for joy and happiness. And as you have come to the end of the illusion, and you are beginning to live real more and more, all the holiday season presents for many is stress. The need to do it right, the need to get it perfect, the need to buy gifts to prove you love people, to spend money you don't have on things you don't like to impress people that you don't care about. And loving relationships are stressed because the illusion has created such a belief system that relationships are dependency. And the rules of the society about how relationships should, oughta, gotta, musta be done. What you have to do for those you love, but also very often the hidden agendas, the subtexts, the things that people won't face, and yet they're there. And it is, we keep saying, beloved masters, honesty is an imperative in these times. So getting real with yourself about the things that you may not say to others, but the agendas color the relationship, so that there is a lot of conflict about doing the relationship right. So I will remind you again, beloved masters, I speak to you as masters, not as frazzled humans trying to keep up with all the burden of what you're supposed to be doing. I'm speaking to you as masters. I don't feel like a master. That's all right. You are one. And I will remind you, mastery is not a logic problem. Mastery is not an intellectual process. You have talked about, thought about, debated, discussed, taken classes, processed for the last 150 to 200 years, as the idea of spirituality has begun to, shall we say, reoccur in the consciousness as you move toward the dawning of the age of Aquarius. But mastery is not, very often you will find, logic. It isn't logical. And a lot of people will say that the relationship that you have with your gatekeeper, with your council, with the masters that are serving the world, isn't a real relationship, because spiritual relationships have been considered fantasy. We're your imaginary friends. Now, those of you that counsel with I on a monthly basis may have forgiven the belief system that I'm an imaginary friend. Friend, yes. Imaginary, well, imagination is the feminine principle of creation, but it is. I am definitely real. And so are you. So be very clear. As you bring the spirit, who you truly are, into your life, into your daily affairs, your relationships are going to begin to change, not because you are making them change, because, beloved masters, that's one reason there is so much difficulty in the relationships on the planet. The attempt of two people to make one relationship, and the conflicts that occur over who is going to be the boss of the relationship, who is going to control how the relationship works. Now, for lifetimes in the patriarchy, the rule was that a man takes a woman to be his wife, and the woman performs her wifely duties. And there's a whole list of agendas of what wifely duties are. The Master Paul, in the Master Book, wrote of what a good woman must be capable of. And among other things, getting very little sleep is a part of being a good woman. So it is to get very clear the old patriarchal rules about relationship, which governed relationships until the beginning of the dawning of the age of Aquarius. In the 1920s, morality went to hell in a handbasket, because there was Bathtub Jen, there was the Charleston, there were, skirts up to here, and, it was just too much. Fast cars and fast women, and all of the tight-minded morality of the old order began to shake loose. In the 30s, there was a resurgence of the energy of spirituality. It was still connected to seances and consorting with the dead, but it was an opening, a difference. And the wars changed a lot of things. When World War II came along and the men left and the women went into the factories, the marketplace, that began to change the complexion of relationships. And according to the patriarchy, it just wasn't as rosy as it had been. Because woman was beginning to not find her power, but own it. Many women knew they had power, but up until the 1960s, women were not allowed to speak of it much. Oh, there was always the character here and there that had the nerve to show up in a man's world. And as you moved through the 20th century, women began to take their place in business, not in the factories as workers, but in corporations on Wall Street. But they believed that in order to be effective in a good job, they had to act like a man. As best they could, think like a man. And certainly to be as warlike and competitive as men. And yet, all the while, Goddess is emerging. The gentle, compassionate aspects of both male and female. A woman who is powerful in her gentleness is a gentle woman. A man that is gentle in his power is a gentle man. And gentlemen and gentlewomen at one point in time were considered to be genteel, certainly, but it was more a societal attribute than it was living the truth of themselves wisely and well. Now, beloved masters, as the old order has passed away, and we keep saying 14 years into the new millennium, and amazing changes have occurred in the energy. For one thing, it is almost as though the lid has been taken off of a boiling cauldron of anger that people either didn't express, didn't talk about, or refused to accept that it existed within them. And yet, as the illusion is passing away, and you are moving into reality, things that you didn't want to see, didn't want to know about yourself, are coming up from the bottom of the pond. And relationships potentially can also now begin to be real. It isn't who you love, masters. It's how you love. the quality of loving that you have within yourself to share. There have been thousands of romantic songs and hundreds of thousands of pieces of poetry about how wonderful romance is. But romance is an institution of the illusion. Because, beloved masters, romance has never been with you. And rarely, if ever, does romance include you in the relationship. Because everything about the illusion has been about separation. So what are you, as a good partner, going to do for them? Did you ask? Or did you assume? And everyone knows what assumption does. And so, beloved masters, and here we go again. In fact, the ego says, oh no, not again. A good, loving relationship starts with you. And it isn't about thinking about yourself nearly so much as it is feeling who you are. How many lifetimes has it been since you have really felt in love with you? When you feel in love with someone else, it can be almost overwhelming. It is often fraught with neediness, and sometimes it is fraught with compulsion. But to really delight in being with someone has a feeling in the area of the heart and soul, a warmth, very pleasant, very sweet, and oftentimes without words. Look for that within you, in your heart and soul, for yourself. It isn't about idolizing yourself. Often the idolization of someone else creates mists and fogs and illusion. The once upon a time in a land far, far away also colors the other person in mystical robes, and the expectations of the mind can lead to a huge downfall of disappointment if the beloved proves to be human. Perfection. Perfection is like a dis-ease on the planet. Perfection is not how I do it, or I'm giving it my best. And that's perfection. Perfection can actually lead to stagnation because perfection, by its definition, is completed. It requires nothing else. So the attempt to be perfect in a relationship is the desire to reach a point where I don't have to put forth any more effort on this relationship. I've perfected the relationship. And that's another aspect of the illusion that requires forgiveness in every element of your life. There. I want to get there. I want to perfect my job, my relationship. I want to perfect my income. I want to get it all just right, and then I can sit back and enjoy it. And it is, beloved masters, if you haven't discovered by now, the joy is in the journey. Then there's a celebration as you achieve a part of the goal. But once you achieve a part of the goal, there are other goals that unfold. Many relationships are entered into by at least one person, and sometimes two, who are so focused on the wedding, making the marriage legal, standing before a body of peers and asking their permission to be with this person. And the parental order is passing away with the illusion. You are becoming spiritual adults, and you are not required to ask the permission of your society. Do you think it's all right if I am with this person? How do you feel about it? Have you felt about it? Do you dare feel about it? Clarity makes for a very good relationship. But it is, beloved masters, if you can't be clear with you about you, then it is very difficult to be clear about someone standing in front of you. How do you feel about yourself in the relationship? Not what do you think about it, because very often thinking about the relationship simply activates the ego to begin to scrutinize the relationship and make all manner of complaints, accusations. It activates dissatisfaction. It points out flaw. And the wonderful illusion of relationship bursts like a soap bubble. Loving relationships, dearly beloved masters, are absolutely resilient. They are flexible. They are adaptable. They are filled with humor. Not only the ability to laugh at others, dearly beloved masters, but the exquisite ability to be amused by yourself. Not in a sarcastic, biting, critical way, but in the gentle amusement of watching yourself grow, of seeing, feeling, experiencing yourself changing. In a loving relationship, people do not move at exactly the same rate of speed. And they don't always grow in the same direction. Sometimes the growth feels almost as though they are moving away from each other, and then it comes together, and it feels as though they are moving right along, side by side. But a loving relationship has loads of patience. The willingness not to stop your forward motion for someone else, but to be open to them coming along as they will, and keeping the space open for them to be there wherever they are. Acceptance, first of self, and then of others. Whether the relationship is an intimate relationship, whether it is a deep friendship, whether it is co-workers, whether it is new people that you meet. Every exchange that you have with another human being is a relationship. You are in relationship with the masters that are assisting you. It isn't intimate in the sense of sexuality. And the egoic mind says if sex is not involved, then it really isn't an intimate relationship. And yet, oftentimes, even though someone has a marriage partner, somewhere along the way they encounter another person that can open them up. Not in a sexual way, but in a way that they can be more of who they are. And that, beloved masters, is also intimacy. Into me see the transparency of being real with another person. The process of getting so comfortable with yourself that you're not hiding who you are beyond facades of the illusion that you have been raised with. This is how you are supposed to be. And very often, adults are still attempting to hide aspects of their nature in order to please the parents that told them this is how you've got to be in order to please me, the parent. And the parents said, and we tell you this because we love you. Letting go of the cruel belief systems of illusion that guilt, shame, indictment, criticism, assassination of character are loving considerations. Forgive the beliefs that have held you to burdens within yourself of who you are, that as you really come home to yourself, you will begin to find that was never true. It was not who you are, it was someone else's opinion. Very often based on how unloved they felt. Having the love in the relationship to share.